Welcome, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Hensley, and I'm the Vice President of Media Operations here at FreightWaves. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, where we'll be exploring how technology can be used to drive long-term relationships between carriers and brokers. And we're thrilled to present today's webinar in partnership with TriumphPay. Before we get started, I'd like to cover just a couple of housekeeping items. First, if you have any issues during the webinar, please feel free to reach out to our team via the chat function on your Zoom control panel. If you have questions that you would like to ask our presenters at the conclusion of the discussion, you can also enter those through the Q&A box in your control panel. We'll answer as many of those as we have time for during the live audience Q&A session. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and introduce today's speakers. We'll be hearing from Kate Juliao, Vice President of Operations for TriumphPay, along with Jordan Graft, who is the Executive Vice President of Payment Solutions for TriumphPay. We'll also have a live Q&A with both speakers following the discussion. So before we kick off, Kate and Jordan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit about yourselves. Jordan?
Yeah, so my name is Jordan Graft. I'm Executive Vice President for TriumphPay here at the bank. And so my background has been in finance and technology. I worked for JP Morgan prior to joining Triumph, and TriumphPay is what I spend all my time on. It's something I'm very passionate about creating a better carrier experience in the industry. So I'm excited to be talking with everyone today.
I am Kate Juliao. I'm the VP of Operations of TriumphPay, and operations has been my entire career life. My primary role is to work with our operations team, our partner brokers, and their carriers to drive carrier payment efficiencies. And our team provides support to our partner brokers and their carriers with any questions that they may have, which our main focus is to enhance the carrier experience, to drive carrier loyalty, and simplify the payment process.
Awesome. So along those lines of driving loyalty, when considering technology solutions, what key areas do you recommend brokers focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so when we talk about carrier loyalty or the carrier experience, we really like we think about it in its totality, right, from start to finish. So starting with the onboarding process, the first, that's your real first interaction. That's the first experience that carrier is going to have with you, making sure that that's clean and makes sense and is easy to use. That you're really setting the tone for how that carrier is going to perceive you. So the onboarding process is kind of the first leg. Then communication through a load or just through the relationship with that carrier. That's what we're going to spend most of our time today talking about, is the ways that at TriumphPay that we support carrier communication, how we try and create a consistent experience across all communication channels, and what that means for a carrier. Because really what we're trying to do is just meet the carrier where they are and how they want to communicate, which changes. It changes depending on the day, the time of day, what kind of question they have. It's really important that you support more than just one way of communication. And then the last is an area where honestly we see the communication drop off, and it's around the payment process. And so if you want to finish strong on that experience with that carrier, paying them well, which doesn't necessarily have to mean check ACH. However, it just really means transparency and visibility. Like if you're building trust around that payment experience. And so those three working together is what is, in our minds, what you can use technology to create that loyalty, or the experience that the carrier wants to come back and continue to work with you.
Great. And Jordan, we hear a lot of talk about capacity in this market and the importance of building relationships with carriers. How would you describe the current state of the freight market, and why is loyalty so important?
Yeah, and so what's interesting is the timing, right? Coming out of 2018 with tight capacity into the first half of this year where it's very loose and there's abundance of capacity. And so now is the time. It would seem kind of counterintuitive. Should we be talking about carrier loyalty or how to attract and retain carriers when right now it's easy to cover loads? And the answer is yes. Building carrier loyalty is something you need to be doing through the cycle. It needs to be something that you're working on now, because it's an investment. It's not something you can just go out and buy when the market starts to get tight. You need to be starting to develop a reputation among carriers for someone that's easy to work with. And those investments in technology and in the carrier experience can't be done overnight. And so it's about taking the time that we have right now in this market to starting treating carriers well and creating that experience so that when things do get tight, you're the broker that they turn to, or you have a tighter group of carriers that you can work with, and are able to make more profit in the markets when the capacity gets tight.
Yeah, and you hear a lot about kind of those one and done relationships. What do you feel like brokers are really missing out on when they aren't building loyalty and long-term business relationships with their carriers?
So imagine having to onboard a new employee every single day and having to show them the ropes of the organization. I mean, from where the break room is located to completing their HR paperwork just to get started. I mean, and now imagine working with a tenured employee with over 5 years experience that already knows the ins and outs of the company with little or no direction, with the understanding of how to get daily tasks completed and in an efficient manner. So I know which one I would prefer to work with, because the cost of these ones and dones is exactly the reason why building carrier loyalty is so important. A strong carrier loyalty is significant to any broker when it comes to instilling trust and understanding how that process flows once a load is assigned. Working with the already established carriers really eliminates that onboarding task of getting the carrier set up in the system, validating credit, giving them instructions on how to properly submit their carrier paperwork, and even educating the carrier on how to request any advances. So building a platform for these carriers to have access to communicate with them on an anytime basis really bridges the gap between the broker and the carrier that's completing the load. So through technology, brokers get to see the true value of training and not having to educate carriers on a consistent basis. And it allows these brokers to focus their human capital on other important areas of the business. Onboarding new carriers, it's never going to go away. It is never going to go away. That's just the reality of the business. But just imagine reducing 1 call per day for every new carrier that's onboarded. For a broker, this could possibly reduce up to 11,000 calls per year. It's essential to utilize the tools and applications available to drive that efficiency to enhance that carrier loyalty. And so the focus can then shift to growing the company and fine-tuning operational processes.
And we're not, we're not pretending to think that like this idea of a one and done goes away. It's a part of the industry. It's a part of broker freight. But we see a lot of brokers and brokers that do this well, that are able to convert what would have been a one and done carrier into a repeat carrier. There are brokers that do that well and better than others. It's not just, I wouldn't say you just need to just let it happen, right? Continue to invest in this. How do I take that carrier from a one and done? Ask them questions, survey that population of your carrier base and find out why, and see if there's ways to turn that into a repeat carrier.
Great. And then talking a little bit more about that onboarding process, how can workers really work to improve that process to simplify things moving forward for their organizations?
So I will tell you, Marianne, first impressions are everything. And with the new carriers, it's extraordinarily important. So collaborating with partners to improve that onboarding process, like we do with RMIS and My Carrier Packets, to build those integrations that allow carriers to auto-select their payment terms and payment method right when they sign up. It truly sets the tone, what Jordan was talking about at the very beginning, for a better carrier experience. Having technology that assists with that onboarding process really drives what the carrier is looking for. And what that carrier is looking for is a simple, fast, and efficient onboarding process that lets them get on the road and feel confident about the process. It provides them comfort and trust to a carrier that they know once the load is complete, they'll be paid in the terms that they selected at the very beginning. So again, we cannot communicate more thoroughly how important improving the onboarding process is, because it's what establishes the communication channels and expectations early on. And the carriers are more prone to continue working with brokers that have a more streamlined process that's just efficient, it's simple, and it's effective.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those of you listening in, Kate Juliao oversees the operations department at TriumphPay. So that includes a US-based call center in Dallas. Each day, the TriumphPay call center team fields hundreds of communications from carriers on multiple channels. And because of this, they've been able to learn a lot about how carriers prefer to communicate and what they expect in terms of response time and available communication channels. And so along those lines, what are you seeing in terms of how carriers prefer to communicate?
Yeah, the biggest change, honestly, in the last 10 years around customer service and in call center, it's not just a call center anymore. Right. It's not a 1-800 number on the website. That doesn't solve the problem. You can't check the box there. You have to support text, SMS, you have to support email, you have to support inbound and outbound calls, you have to support, and the one that we love, we're going to talk a lot about, is live chat on your site or on your portal. You can't just sit back and just say, hey, there's one way to talk to me. You have to be providing multiple ways for that carrier to reach you. There's a whole lot of reasons. Some of it is some carriers prefer for a lot of reasons to email or text. English may not be their first language, and it's easier for them to just type out a text or an email, or they're doing it at odd times. That the benefit of asynchronous communication between you and the carrier is important, that you're supporting that well. And then, as we talk about this, it's also about creating a consistent experience across the channels. It can't be, this person just handles this over text message or paperwork. You have to be supporting and providing the same level of service, same level of information across all those channels. So your team, that means is your team members have to be trained and able to support across those multiple channels, so that, you're getting that consistent carrier experience.
Yeah, 100%. And earlier this year, TriumphPay started implementing chat capabilities through a tool called Intercom. Kate, can you talk a little more about how that's really helped your call center team save time and become more efficient?
I will tell you, through some of the applications that we've, put into place this year, it's really just changed the entire TriumphPay operations team. Because when you have a portal that allows carriers to check on their payment status, it is crucial to have an online chat tool for the carriers to access when they have questions. Because I tell you what, there's nothing worse than getting online or driving up to a store only to find that the lights are off and there's no one there to help. The online chat tool like Intercom, it really became a resource and makes a carrier feel like someone is there, ready to handle any payment inquiry they have about their load. And it allows them to engage with our team members so we can work together to resolve a question. But I will tell you, the biggest functionality that we have found as a huge benefit is that, it's just a great tool, and it allows anyone to register. So we have carriers, we have brokers, we have factoring companies that utilize this application because they have found this is what best fits their needs to get the answers in a quick and timely manner. They don't have to wait. There's little to no wait time. And then the live chat, it also allows image sharing between the support team here and these individuals to give a more clear picture of what they're trying to resolve. So this online chat, it breaks away from a user having to call in each time just to get an answer with what possibly could be just a quick answer. They're just looking for speed. And this is just another way that our support team can communicate with them. So again, Intercom has been a game changer for us here.
Yeah, and just it's so important. And the amount of call volume dropped materially, and the feedback we got from people responding on our website was just so much more positive because they were getting answered. This is the difference between making them go dive into a dusty old FAQ versus giving them a live person on the other end answering questions. It is a game changer. So even if you have a portal, you have to have this in there. If you're a broker and you have a portal, you've got to have some form of chat. And even if you don't have a portal and you just have a website, like, get this on your website, because you don't know how they may end up. They may go there looking for information, and you're there to help guide them and direct them for what they're looking for. It's an affordable tool, and we'll talk about the options, but this has been a game changer for us and well worth all the investment into this service.
Yeah, and there are so many chat tools out there. So how did you make the decision to go with Intercom, and what would you tell brokers who might be looking for a chat solution to keep in mind as they continue their search process?
Yeah, and Marianne, just like you said, there's an abundance of online chat tools that are available, and we're not going to tell you which one is the right one, but I will tell you that Intercom, is what best fit our company. And I know choosing the right one can also be a challenge. So you need to do your research, because what we found with Intercom was the multiple features that allowed us to meet our customers' needs through those multiple support features they have, from the Autobots for, prompted questions so that we didn't have to keep typing in the same information each time, to really pull the information out of the carrier and allowing us to be able to do multiple chats at once. Because like Jordan was stating, is the call volume drops, and it allows us to engage with these carriers on a more one-on-one basis and get them the quick information that they're looking for. So it's really the workflow and what your business needs when you are choosing which chat tool you want to utilize for your business, because ultimately it's up to you on which core chat application best fits your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And as many companies are in the world in general are really going more mobile, what would you say in terms of how SMS or text messaging kind of fits into this picture?
Yeah, it's crucial. Like, you have to support it. And ideally, for TriumphPay, we develop the technology ourselves. So we picked Twilio because of the API capabilities. It was the easiest. Had, I guess, the most comprehensive API, and gave us the most control and flexibility over how to use SMS within our platform. But for brokers that aren't necessarily building their own connections, some may be, and if you are, we love Twilio. If you're not, RingCentral, and I know it has partnerships with some big TMS providers, and Dialpad is another great one that's maybe a little more affordable. But this is you got to offer this, and you got to provide it, and even better, the next level, if you get it integrated into your CRM or ERP system or your TMS, that's crucial that those chat logs get inserted into the the history of the load or the history even just with that carrier. That's something that's really important for us, and it's really beneficial, keeping kind of a central hub where all this communication is going in and out of. But 2019, you got to be offering the ability to communicate over text message.
Absolutely. And switching gears a bit, let's talk a bit about support tickets. Why did you guys make the move to a support ticket system, and how does that help both the broker and the carrier?
Yeah, and so, we talked about chat. That was one of the ones that we were real passionate about, people hearing about on this call, that was a big difference for us. A ticketing system is the other one. This was, once we started hitting a certain scale at TriumphPay, trying to manage the inbound emails in a shared email inbox is not productive. It's not efficient. Things can get missed. Your CSRs are stepping over each other. A ticketing system, for us, we went with Freshdesk. And we can talk about the other ones, talk about HubTran and a couple others. But for us, it was Freshdesk, and what that allowed us to do was make sure that tickets were getting resolved in a certain amount of time. We now have an SLA on how fast we respond to the first request. We want to be responding within 1 hour. Having the data and the analytics to be able to measure our CSR team and make sure that we're delivering on our brand promise of our response times is huge. It's game changing. The second component of it is they work so much more efficiently. Things don't get missed because they don't get cleared out of the queue until they're done, right? And they, with a shared email inbox, people may move the email, you may miss it, but here you have the ability to, that person's assigned to them. They have to get it done, and if they don't, the accountability is there, the breadcrumb trail is there. Also very important. And then the last thing was the ability to categorize tickets. So this seems like a small thing, but for us, what this allowed us to see is areas for improvement in our platform. We were getting 20-30% of our tickets were around the ability to see the deposited check image. We would have never thought that we should have, we needed to allow a carrier or a factory company to see the deposited check image. They deposited, they should be able to have it. But that was a huge area that we were getting a lot of inbound requests. And so we were able to add that feature to our platform and reduce our amount of tickets. So this platform, this ticketing system, is not just making us more efficient and making sure we're getting responses out, it's now driving our product development life cycle. And so, for you as a broker, you may not be developing product, but you'll be able to see where the areas that you may not be, you may not be fulfilling the carrier experience to its fullest, and you need to make some improvements if you can break down these tickets by category.
And the other thing too, to add to that, is we provide these client reports to our partner brokers. We, meet with them on a quarterly basis. We're going over these different ticketing options that they have seen, so they get to see what their carriers are also asking about, because we're really big on collaboration with our partner brokers, because it's not just us that it's determined the carrier experience, it's the broker relationship as well. And the only way to bridge that gap between the broker and the carrier is to get the broker involved in the process. And so that's where Freshdesk really helped us be able to drive that strategy in collaboration with our partner brokers.
Great. And what would you say are some of the better support ticket tools out there? And what are some things that a broker should consider before implementing a ticketing?
Yeah, so we talked about Freshdesk. I want to talk a little bit about HubTran. HubTran is a great product for brokers. It's designed for brokers. Matt Bernstein and his team have built something that is fast and efficient, if you're a broker and you don't have a ticketing system, go look at HubTran for sure. Take a look at it, get a demo. They're going to be integrated with probably integrated with your TMS provider. They're integrated with lots, and it allows your team to be more efficient. So, as you compare like FreshDesk to HubTran is built for the freight brokers, for the broker freight industry. FreshDesk made more sense for us because we're not handling as much paperwork through our inbound communication channels, and there were some other features we wanted there. But definitely those two, I would say, take a first look at HubTran, take a look at FreshDesk. Zendesk, Kate, you can help me here, but it was a little more expensive. Yes. And it was harder to configure, and it took a little more time, and it was, it just didn't fit where we were in, what we were looking for in that tool. But it's a great tool and a lot of users. But overall, just the recommendation here again is just, if you're a broker and you're getting a lot of inbounds, make sure you have a ticketing system in place so that email that's coming in is getting handled quickly, efficiently, and you now have a feedback loop on the category of emails that you're getting into your pipeline.
Absolutely. And to those of you listening in, if you haven't already, please do feel free to go ahead and submit those questions for Kate and Jordan through the Q&A button in your control panel. Moving on, Kate, there is obviously a ton of talk about all of the different technologies available to kind of support the industry. How important is it to have a real person behind it all?
Yeah, exactly. So, what we've been talking about today is how technology can really help drive carrier loyalty. However, you also need to partner technology with real people, okay? We're not just saying that, robots are going to fix everything, Technology is what helps drive efficiencies, just like Jordan was talking about with the FreshDesk tickets and being able to do client reporting and really enhance, our strategy and the data that goes around that. But technology helps drive those efficiencies, making people's lives easier, whether it's our support team on the phone or the carrier utilizing the system. But we have to find a balance between technology and people. That's just key, because the reality is people are still needed. They provide that connection. They provide that relationship with the carriers, and that is ultimately what drives that carrier loyalty. Because sometimes you just need that person that's going to tell you everything is going to be okay and be able to handle your issues right then and there. And, just had a call this morning. I had a frustrated carrier trying to get set up on the system, and she really just needed to be heard out. Like, she just said, please just help me. And I walked her through the whole process. She was able to get set up on her system. And now her and I have that connection. She has my direct line. She knows that everything is going to be taken care of. And she's happy with the partner broker that she completed the load for, and the ease of how it's going to move forward in the future in the event she takes another load from that broker. So again, that's why you need real people behind the supporting, communication channels that your company decides to use.
Yeah, and talk about training. Kate does an amazing job with our team on training our team to recognize that a frustrated customer is an opportunity. Yes. It's not something to avoid. It's not something to try and, get rid of quickly. Like, it's literally an opportunity to create an amazing experience. And that's what people miss is like, it's not always fun to be on the end of, like, you're going to have frustration from your customers or your carriers at some point. And you just, Kate does a great job training these people. Like, look, engage in that as an opportunity to make this person love your product and love your brokerage. It's really about using these people here to, that sell your business. They're selling for you.
Yeah.
And super important.
Yeah. So if you have a support team who really thinks that they're not in a sales job, they're actually very wrong. They're the ones who actually are the ones who get the repeat business. If we get, a salesperson that's working, at a potential prospect of a broker, it's the referrals from our operations team and our past brokers, our partner brokers' experience. It's really driving future partnerships with TriumphPay. And that's what I tell them. Like, you guys are the first line of communicating with these carriers, our brokers, and even the factoring companies. It's so important to really train those customer service skills and to be able to handle conflict resolution and not take it personally. That's the biggest thing I say. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that that carrier felt like they were taken care of once they, stopped talking to us in whichever communication channel they utilized, whether it was the online chat, the phone call, or the help desk ticketing option, or even the text messaging. And we just want to make sure that they're taken care of.
100%, and really refreshing perspective there to both of you. Thank you for that. So guys, what takeaways would you offer to brokers for how they can better communicate with their carriers on multiple channels, especially some of those brokers out there who may have smaller teams?
Yeah. So the first takeaway I would give, someone is just, when you're a broker, your product is, working with that carrier. Something we do here is we walk through our product experience. Think about the user experience. That's something that's very tightly wound into software development, but not always into other aspects of your business. But walk through your new carrier experience. See what it's like. Go from onboarding to getting the load tender to getting your paperwork in to getting paid. And every time we do it, every time we do this with our product, we find areas for improvement. We say, man, why are we doing it that way? We could do it so much better if this was here and this was more intuitive. So that's the first thing I say is put yourself in the shoes of your carrier and walk through your experience and see what it's like and see where your areas are for improvement. And the second is just talking to your carriers. This is something we do in a lot of different ways. Through the communication coming in, we're always looking for feedback on how we can improve things. We send out quarterly surveys, checking in on how carriers view the platform. Finding out what their frustrations are, what new features they're looking for. So keeping a communication or a dialogue going with your carriers to bring out new feature requests or find areas where you have issues that need to be improved. That's super important. And then just the second thing here, again, you got to provide multiple channels. And this, I'd love for people to walk away from this, go back and look at their business and see, hey, what are some other areas, some other opportunities we could provide for carriers to reach us and make it easy and make it integrated into what we do.
Yeah, and through those multiple channels, and implementing those specific applications like we did with Fresh Us and Intercom at the beginning of the year, I just can't state enough how truly that has been a game changer for TriumphPay operation. I mean, it has really helped us gain the insights on the challenges that our partner brokers and their carriers are running into on a daily basis. And that, like Jordan's been saying, that insight gives us the opportunity to collaborate with our partner brokers to find those resolutions on how we can improve payment processing for these carriers. Because I tell you, without the data, there's no evidence to create a strategy or that any of these issues even existed. I mean, you have to be able to build off of data to improve the carrier experience. You have to start from somewhere. And that's why these tools are so needed in any platform that you're utilizing with your company. So this is where the balance between technology and real people come into play and be able to provide that data on a quarterly basis, because people cannot just go off their assumptions. You have to have a starting point, and the starting point is with the tools that you are implementing in your daily company operations.
That's great. What gets measured gets managed.
That's
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And technology, one key area where it can really help, especially in this industry, is really providing visibility into processes. And you mentioned previously that payment visibility is a key area that can be improved by technology. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So we've talked about the first two segments. Onboarding, that first impression, communicating with them during the process, during the cycle, during the load. But then what we find is when it comes to this last step, payment, this is where we don't get, where the carrier doesn't get what he wants, right? And the way we know that is we did a survey of about 500 brokers 6 months ago, and we found 90% of brokers currently don't offer a portal for carriers to submit paperwork or view payment status. That was specifically what we're asking. Can they view payment status? And there's a lot of reasons why it can be difficult. If the broker's making payments out of the accounting system that's not connected to the TMS, there can be lots of reasons why. But just put yourself in that perspective of that carrier. Do all this work, have all this communication, asking me where I'm at, giving load status updates, and then when it comes time, which is potentially the most important part, or is the most important part of the transaction for the carrier, the payment, it's like they go dark. They don't have the ability to self-serve and find their payment status. Think about today as consumers. Would we ever, it would just be everything, every business we interact with, we expect to have an online self-serve experience. And just think, like, in your carrier's perspective, this is the most important part of how you're going to interact with them. And so what we like to see here is you have to have a portal and a way for that carrier to have visibility. It doesn't have to be TriumphPay, but you've got to give that carrier visibility into where their payment is, how they're getting paid. And if you want bonus points, you got to give them the ability to change their payment method, take quick pay. You got to give them that flexibility and control over their payment life cycle in your portal. Again, just what we want to make clear here is transparency and visibility around payment builds trust. If you want to quickly build trust with carriers, provide visibility and transparency around where their money is, and they will start to trust you, which will then in turn into loyalty.
Great. And Jordan, why is it so important for the broker to have a payment portal that a carrier can easily access? Can we go a little deeper on that?
Yeah, and that's why we talk about TriumphPay, right? Is what we provide to the brokers. We allow the carrier to use one portal and one platform to view all their payment statuses across all 160 brokers on our platform. And that's, when we ask our carriers, why do you like TriumphPay? What is it about TriumphPay that you like? They say it's the one place where I can go and see everything. I have this visibility and transparency. And then the word they say over and over again is control.
Control, yes.
Over and over again, we get control that they can now go in, they can change their payment method, they can quick pay. And that's a part of an experience they haven't had in the industry. And that's something that we're really proud of and passionate about for the carrier. And so, this last stat here, we talked about, we survey our carriers quarterly. You have to do that. You have to stay on the pulse of what your carrier base or customer base is thinking about you. One thing that we really want a carrier to say is when they ask, what is TriumphPay like? We want them to say easy. And so we focus on asking, how easy is it to use TriumphPay? And we take this feedback and, if we get feedback that, hey, this wasn't easy or that wasn't easy, that's when we go back and change the user interface or the user experience to make it so, we are able to get really good metrics around an easy experience. And that's super important to us when we talk about payment and control and visibility.
Awesome. And can you share a little bit about how TriumphPay kind of fits into this whole picture?
So from like the streamline payment process, yeah. And so like Jordan was talking about, we really want it to be that one-stop portal. Giving the carrier a tool to handle all of their load paperwork in one place, receive messaging direct from the broker in the event there is delay in processing and approving those payments, and just more focus on completing loads and more confidence that their payments are being processed quickly and efficiently, how they set them up, during the onboarding process. The great thing about the portal is that it's available 24/7. They have a support line of team members to assist during business hours. With the technology and the surveys, like Jordan was stating, we're able to pinpoint which enhancements we as a company need to focus on because we want that feedback. Sometimes it's hard to receive that feedback, but it's so important to, like he was stating, is to continue to ask those questions. And, this is why we're so excited. We have a mobile app that's coming out, in September, and we're getting an upgraded broker portal. Again, transparency, giving them the visibility to be able to utilize our portal much more efficiently, simply, and easy. Like Jordan was stating, easy is the key word that we really want our carriers to feel when they go into our online portal. They can manage all their important paperwork in one place. They can see it right there on their carrier dashboard. They can set their payment methods and terms up for multiple brokers at once. And, just having that mobile app for accessibility, you have these carriers out on the road that don't have access to a computer at all times. And so we want to give them the access in their hands and be able to provide them that image capture and, document presentment so that there's no questions on when a load is completed and the broker can get that paperwork, review it, authorize it, approve it, and get it paid out to that carrier.
Awesome. And thank you so much, guys. Are there any last kind of final takeaways that you would offer for everyone listening in that they can take back to their office and apply today?
Yeah, it's just, again, building carrier loyalty is an investment that takes time. It's a combination of technology and training people. And it's something that, has to go deep into the culture of what you're doing. Think about it from the totality of your carrier experience, from onboarding, communication during the life of the load, and to payment. It's an entire life cycle experience that, you have to do well to build that carrier loyalty.
And just communicating with the brokers, the carriers, and again, even the factors through these multiple communication channels, it gives the people the flexibility to get information and control over those carrier payments. Not everyone communicates in the same way, so providing these customers different options to contact your support team really builds that relationship, which in turn creates that loyalty and that repeat carrier business. So just remember that what we've talked about here today is that there's always needs to be a balance between technology and people. But again, it's the technology that allows people to do their jobs better, to be able to focus on the key areas of the business, because now they have the tools to drive that efficiency. Because the goal is to provide customers a way to connect and get carriers on the road faster.
Awesome. And thank you both for sharing your perspectives. At this point, we will go ahead and take some questions from the audience. So again, if you have not submitted those for Kate and Jordan, please feel free to do so through the Q&A button in your control panel. We do have a few questions so far. First, a couple of people have asked, are we going to be sending the recording of the presentation after? Yes, you will receive that as a registrant. So you should be receiving that here in the next 48 hours or so. First question from the audience, specific to HubTran. Does HubTran have a ticket management and monitoring system, or is it specifically for paperwork? Can you guys speak to that?
You know, they have some tools around that. I would prefer, HubTran or, getting a demo or tour of their product to give you a full list of their features. But, they do handle non-paperwork email. It's not just for paperwork.
Great. And next question, does every inbound IM create a ticket with Freshdesk, or is a ticket created through a contact us form?
That's a great question. Why don't you take that? You want to take that, or you?
You can take it.
Okay. Yeah. So when we originally started, we thought we wanted every chat to be created into a ticket, but we realized very quickly that's not the right approach. So we don't turn every chat or conversation into a ticket. We wait till it becomes, hey, this is something we can't just resolve quickly on chat, and then we turn it into a ticket. So that was a path we took down that we didn't like. So again, it's just so things that create tickets are inbound emails, contact us forms. Or if a conversation, the CSR identifies that conversation is going to take longer to resolve than they can over chat, then that turns into a ticket. Great question.
I'm sorry?
I said it was a great question.
Oh, awesome. Great. And we do have one more question here. So if you've got any final burning questions, go ahead and submit those for us. Last one that I have right now. Do you find that older carrier personnel have a harder time using and trusting your technology platforms versus the younger generation? So a bit tapping into that legacy mindset there.
So I'll speak to that. So I will tell you, my entire career has been 100% involved in operations. And so I've worked with all age demographics in regards to the technicians that I used to work with the median age was 45 years old. So everybody adapts to technology differently. And that's why Jordan, what he was speaking to about is training our team, our operations support team, to really be able to handle those conversations. I will tell you that every single phone call that comes in here is very important to us. So whether we are on the phone with the carrier for 2 minutes, because it was a quick question that they were ready to resolve, or on the phone with them for even 45 minutes to really take them through the step-by-step process, we really help with that. We've even done, conference calls when you have a carrier on the phone who says, hold on, can I please, conference in my daughter or my son? We make it work. We find the resolution so that nobody is left out in regards to adopting these technologies. And I will tell you that once they do get logged into the platform, every time I hear back from them is, this is so easy to use. And again, that's really what we were looking for at TriumphPay. And what the other great point of that is that once they get it all set up, if they never want to go back into TriumphPay, it's set up for them to work with that broker that they've connected with on the platform every single time. And they know that they're going to be paid based on the payment method that they set up and on the terms that they also elected. So again, age demographics really hasn't affected us in a negative way whatsoever. If it's done anything, it's giving us insight on how to make our portal even more efficient and easy for anybody to be able to adopt the technology.
Great. And then as a follow-up to the initial Freshdesk question, it says, to confirm, after the IM question is answered, do you then create a ticket and resolve it?
So you're asking, okay, I get what you're going to do, categorize the conversation. So yes, I mean, a lot of this, we look at those conversation metrics around Intercom as how many conversations are we handling today. We don't necessarily, we do some tagging around conversations, but yeah, to your point, that if something's resolved in 25, 30 seconds over a chat conversation that doesn't end up in Freshdesk, it's still reported on an Intercom as a conversation, how long it was, how long it took to respond, and some tagging around it. But yeah, you're right. Freshdesk and Intercom in that sense aren't giving us a single unified report. We're reporting in both.
Yeah. So when we're on Intercom and we realize that a conversation it's a conversation is needed, we'll ask for their direct line. We will give them a call, and then we'll create, the help desk ticketing in Freshdesk so that we can track that. Because sometimes it's just the challenge of an individual trying to get connected with the broker, and maybe the credentials that they've given to the broker is outdated. So there's a collaboration that goes on with that to get the kind of issues resolved. And so what Jordan is speaking to is that in those events, that's when a help desk ticket through Freshdesk is created so that we can really track that history and categorize it. So again, we have that data to report off of to, help us better strategize for what we need to enhance in the future.
Great. Next question. It says, we are a very small intermediary. Do you still think a live chat option would be beneficial to us?
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care if you're big or small. I would always say that online chat is very crucial to any business, because if you're thinking that you're going to stay the same size, you're probably incorrect. You're either going to grow or you're going to go away. So, and I always like to look at the positive end that, and being a small intermediary it's going to grow. You want it to grow into this big business. You have this dream. So put the tool into place to be able to grow with scale. And so that's what I would suggest to you, whether you are just starting out or you're already a large corporation, put that into your business, because again, it was a game changer for us here at TriumphPay.
And it may not be Intercom. It may not be Intercom. Intercom is expensive. So, there are cheaper options out there. We had one there, live chat. Look for cheaper options, I would say. Though, you don't always have to go out and buy the most expensive one, but definitely I would recommend trying it out for sure.
Because even if my own personal experience, I don't want to call a 1-800 number sometimes. I just want a quick resolution. They have all my information there. They validate who I am, and we can, get it resolved right within probably under 2 minutes without me having to dial a 1-800 number. And again, it's critical. I would 100% always say put an online chat, make it available.
Great. And then last question I have here, how does your customer service team add to a broker's bottom line?
So
selling QuickPay.
So the biggest selling point for TriumphPay is that our drive is to sell the QuickPay. We want that monthly revenue share to go back to the broker. And that's what we drive. But the other thing that we like to offer them is back office efficiencies from the AP department. So maybe you have an individual or you have a team right now that's having to do that. When you partner with TriumphPay, the efficiencies between our two core teams and working in collaboration allows your internal AP team to focus on other areas of the business, maybe to onboard more carriers, maybe to grow your brokerage. It depends on you. So not always is it about, revenue generating funds. Sometimes it's just about improving a process. And so whether it's driving QuickPay or improving those back office efficiencies, that's really where TriumphPay comes in to partner with the brokers.
Great. Well, everyone, it looks like that is all that we have for today. So thank you all so much for taking the time to listen in this afternoon. Thank you to TriumphPay for partnering with us for today's presentation. And again, thank you to Kate and Jordan for sharing your perspectives with us today. We appreciate you all being here and hope you'll join us again for another webinar soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Marianne.